Hi, good evening. Kate McCormick here on behalf of Fastback Motors. My client's here applying to receive a license to get a Class 2 license for used automobiles. Vehicles or automobiles, how about that? The location for Fastback Motors is in the old firehouse, the back addition. So the garage that's in the back part, not the historic firehouse area. It's a lease space from, it's actually a sublease through Castle Street Firehouse LLC. And the purpose is to be able to buy, sell, exchange classic cars. It's not going to be open to the public. It's going to have vehicles, the average vehicles will probably be about 5 classic cars that are in the space. The vehicle, the location has always been used for storage of vehicles, so the use of storage of vehicles is not changing. This will just allow the LLC to be able to work with the Registry of Motor Vehicles to license, to be able to purchase and sell through that one entity, and to be able to store them. They'll all be interior in that back area once the renovation is complete in that back area. It will not be open to the public, appointments only. The inventory will all consist of rare classic vehicles. Historically, as I said, it was an S1 use for storage of vehicles, so that won't change. In accordance with Mass General laws and the requirements of the town, Fastback Motors has been bonded through CNA surety bond with a $25,000 bond, and they will they've designated Dominic at Autobahn as the mechanic that would be used to work on most cars. Because they are going to be specific classic cars, there may be specialists that the cars are shipped out to. And the manager of that LLC is Ross Pierce Cameron, as stated in the agenda.
Anyone have any questions?
So is this a temporary use? Is this something while the front is being renovated, or is this?
No, it's a use, it's a sublease for a portion of for the premises.
So for the front of the premises, is that gonna be completely closed off from the back? I mean, is it two different businesses?
It is two different. Warrior Trading is the lease occupant for the building. The new addition, which is in the back, it's a separate unit. The garage doors are separate through the side. There is interior access through a door when you're in the interior, but that'll be secured by Fastback.
Do any abutters need to be like the people that, like the chef, people that have backs on Railroad Street? Does that affect anyone?
No, they're
No,
on
this
their
is-
property.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, because there'll be more.
I don't think there'll be any more. There'll probably be a lot less vehicles than when the town was using it for vehicle storage. Again, it's not going to be a used car lot. It's going to be to store classic cars. Once the car goes in there, it's probably very rarely going to exit the building. There will not be public access. People won't be taking them for test drives, things like that.
Will it be a showroom? Like, will it be, glass in the back that people can see into?
They will be doing renovations, and I do know that the doors at some point will be restored back there, because they're kind of older doors, but I don't believe there's a major remodel for the back space. They're not opening the entire place and making it glass back there.
Anyone else? I don't know, can we put conditions on a license? Anybody know?
Well, just so you understand that, so a Class 2 license is, it's kind of a two-step process under Mass General laws. It starts here, and then once it's approved, it goes to the RMV they actually issue the Class 2 license. So I don't see that there's any reason you can't. I'm not sure the RMV will hold up your conditions when it issues the license, but, if there's,
So what I'm looking for is what you said, that it's appointment only and that there's no sales signage or other outdoor evidence that this is a car lot. Which sounds like not a problem.
I'd be fine with that. But just to let you know, the RMV
Right,
is
the
a
final
participant, but from a town standpoint, we'd be totally acceptable.
Should I say it again more slowly?
Wait,
I guess, Michael, how is it, because we did the Mangiano one recently, but that required,
He was working on the cars.
he
It's a
was
different
working
license.
on the cars,
Right.
and this is to have no work be
Right.
done on the cars.
And I also believe that, the way that the Mass General laws states, certain, changes of use would trigger an inspection to make sure that vehicles could be stored in that area. I'm not sure what happened on that case. I did speak with the building inspector before I filed it,
Right.
and, his discussion was it was a garage, it's always had vehicles in there. From a code standpoint, he wouldn't be looking at different attributes. So from that standpoint, I think there's gonna be no work done in
Right.
in there, and it's already been approved it was built to store vehicles.
And in terms of, you said it was bonded, can you remind me again, I apologize, what it's bonded for?
The bonding requirement is part of the Mass General laws as well,
Okay.
and it's just a surety bond for all Class 2 license holders to have a $25,000 bond. So it's not, there'll be insurance, there'll be liability coverage and things like that on top of it.
And that would cover any sort of environmental concerns that may happen? I'm asking.
Yeah,
I mean, if
an
there's
insurance,
an oil,
I believe the
from an old
insurance,
car.
the insurance bond will probably give more coverage than a surety bond. I think a surety bond is to make sure that, if there's sale interaction, that someone doesn't leave, like a lemon law statute, leave the state of Massachusetts with no recourse. And that's where the bond standpoint comes from.
Okay.
However, there'll be insurance to cover the use there, the liability coverage, which again would cover those items,
Right.
as well as previously there's always been storage of vehicles in there, so.
Right, and, well, I understand that, it's been there before, that doesn't mean that it's, we used to let people dump stuff in the river and we don't let them do that anymore, it's just not because it was, should it continue to be. But I guess I was wondering, with the storage of vehicles or the storage of, oils or gas or things like that, that would be probably stored in that building to some degree, even though they're not working on the cars. I mean, even sometimes just to start an old car, you need, to use something, and at some point they're gonna have to start a car. I'm just curious as to where our building inspector, like where that becomes part of the license.
The statute gives the building inspector the ability to inspect. Mass General Laws does that through the town. I don't think it necessarily puts a timeline on when that inspection happens.
Okay.
But again, I don't think it would be, having a number of cars like 5 wouldn't be that different than some people with a private collection in their home.
Or even the parking lot next door.
I can't say that I don't think this is a bad idea, I just have questions that I don't know the answer to, is what I'm trying to,
The statute gives powers to the local building inspector regarding inspections, but it's not specific on time. That's all I can
yeah.
tell you to answer that question.
So I just had a question, so, you say it may approximately have 10 classic cars. So there must be some kind of plan that has been done to make sure that we can fit 10 cars there, and how is,
Yeah,
so I'd be curious, is there some kind of plan that we can see?
Well, just the square footage alone and the space around the classic cars was how the 10 cap became used for this. The 5 cars is a realistic number. That's the business model plan, not to have 10 cars. But I didn't want to have a 5-car max in case there's 2 titles being held at one point, because one's coming in, one's going out. Now we have 6. So it will, it has, that's why the 10 was given.
So the exit and entrance will be
on the side of the building,
the.
which is private property owned by the fire, that's part of the firehouse property.
Okay, the side with the alley, that's.
Well, it's not the Mahawi Alley
Maybe
side.
that side, okay,
Yeah,
so
it's the area that was always used for the garage, not the fire trucks.
Up to the retaining wall.
Up to the retaining wall, correct, which was installed by the previous owner of this property. So it's all property of the firehouse.
We done? So,
I guess.
Motion to approve the license?
could we add, the conditions that it's appointment only and there won't be any outdoor signage or evidence of a used car lot? Is that, you okay with that motion? Bill?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Second.
I just wanna, I don't know, I just feel like I want more discussion, just,
Well, let's get a second first.
I'll second it.
Okay. What do you,
no, I'm just trying to think, I don't know, it's just, I mean, obviously I've seen it on the agenda, so I know this was coming, but it's just, I'm just trying to visualize how it's gonna be set up, so,
I guess the last condition is so that you don't have to visualize it. It's all
yeah, so there's
indoors.
no signs
Right,
and
right, it's
it's
not a
not gonna
used
be a
car
big
lot.
glass
Correct.
door. What about lighting? Do we have to say, say there's not gonna be like
That would be
lighting
site plan review if they wanted
outside?
to
I
change
mean, do we
lighting.
have to get really specific if we don't want?
Because it's a historic building, I think there'll be, if there's many changes to the exterior of the building, I think it's going to trigger multiple reviews, design
Historic
committee
district is
review.
tougher than we are.
Yeah, but it's
Is-
just, it's the port that's
Yeah.
not historic, right? It's the.
The whole
addition.
Well, the whole
historic.
building's historic.
Okay.
It's just if you look at, if you're familiar with the building, there's definitely a very old firehouse portion, and then there was a addition that is still rather old, but in the back.
Heather, who's taking any questions from?
Yeah.
Is it a quick, come on up.
Yeah.
You gotta come to the microphone. Otherwise, they can't hear you on television. And our ratings go down.
Remember when we had the previous owners who had a problem with the neighbors trying to get garbage in and out and so forth? Will there be any problems if there are any cars parked, in a place outside the building which might impede the ingress and egress of the vehicles related to the neighbors? Just-
Yeah, so the easement is very clearly documented in the Registry of Deeds, and any action that stops anyone from using their legal easement rights would be a violation. There would be a problem. There's no intent to do that. There's been a lot of shared activity back there, and everybody's working the best to make the best situation over what was left back there over
And
years and
the
years of
easement-
ownership.
The easement that was in place is still in place.
Yeah, there's been no
Right.
changes from the prior owner to this owner. There's also an easement to allow people to go down between the Mahawi and the firehouse. So, to really understand the shared space and easements, we'd be here for a very long time. Any use is gonna have to deal with that. I think this is a use that takes a decent amount of square footage without bringing customers there. It's a portion of the building that's kind of the accessory use of the building, and it'll allow some use of that building while the rest of it's being restored.
Anyone
So I
else?
guess just hours and lighting is something I'm just curious about, if we can just make sure that's not.
Well, it's by appointment only, so
Yeah.
there are no requested hours. It's gonna be stored in the 24 hours a day. There's gonna be storage going in the building. The real purpose of the Class 2 license is just to be able to transact business with the cars and the titles. So, again,
I mean, it's not like you're
It's-
gonna have someone coming from, the city wanting to see it at 11 o'clock at night, and wanting to rev their engines and have the lights on and.
I do
go around
not
the
think
block or
there is
anything.
no real, there is no intent. It'll be selective appointments only, so I don't think that will be an issue, but a further condition if needed, to make sure the appointments are during normal business hours or something reasonable
Yeah.
is fine to give you the assurances.
I'd like to add an hours requirement in I guess,
amendment.
I just wanted to bring in the hours, and possibly just to make sure that there's no lighting, that there's no, if they do make it a showroom, that we don't have kind of
Outdoor lighting?
outdoor lighting, yeah.
So, raise that as an amendment?
So I'd like to make an amendment to, add to the first amendment that there is, a limit on, hours of operation to 9 to 5, or, regular business hours.
Most
Or
businesses
whatever.
are open later.
Yeah, 9 to, regular business hours,
I don't think, we might be specific,
yeah.
but,
I mean, it's hard to say, I mean, it's downtown.
Right.
But we
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
bars and restaurants that are open till 1 AM, like, I'm not saying that that's an appropriate time to show a car, but streetlights are still on, and there's still
Okay.
people in town making noise. I mean, especially in the summer months, there's bars right next
Yeah,
door
okay.
that, I think, to say regular business hours is just fine, and obviously, I think showing a car at 11 PM probably isn't the best idea. At the same time, to say you have to be done at 5 when you could still go and make a ton of noise in town doing other things, just seems counterproductive. I think this is a great way to bring some business into a space that's being renovated and in the in-between. I mean, I have environmental concerns, obviously, I've stated those, but I think there are ways for us to be vigilant of those as we go forward.
My only other, I have a little concern on the lighting condition, because it just seems to be, if there's anything that's really gonna change the building, I think there's other boards that I wouldn't want the conditions to impact each other. If there needs to be just security lighting, because it's pretty dark back there right now, just the owner's new to the building, they're starting to do work. I think it's gonna be reasonable. Again, this is a license, so we have to work with the town. You're not giving us a permit that runs for the lifetime of the property, so.
Alright. So I guess
guess-
if it's a problem, we'll.
I guess I'm just
talk about
asking
it.
for a little bit
Yeah.
of trust
Yeah.
to get this.
All right, you have my trust, I rescind whatever I said.
anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you for bringing a business to a long empty building.
Yeah, I think that you guys are gonna like what you see over there, so thank you.
All right, Steam Noodle Cafe